So girls, I just want you to know, I'm going to put my Bible here. That'll be awesome. Thanks, Ben. I am a broken girl, saved by grace, by Jesus. Just want to tell you that. All right, so we're going to talk food. All right? So I want to know what your go-to food is. So what I mean is when you get on the couch and you snuggle in with your blankie. We all have those, right? You have your soft blankie? I have that. You snuggle in with your blankie. What do you crave? Okay, whoa. Did you say ice cream burritos? Ice cream and Doritos. Do you dip them in the ice cream? Woo! Okay, well, at your tables, I want you to stare, and this is quickly, girls, not long. This is not like, I'm going to tell you all of the foods that I so crave when I sit on my couch. What do you crave when you want to sit on the couch and, snuggle up with your blanket? Tell your tables really quickly. What do you crave? All right. So, all right, girls. I set loose the Kraken. Talking about food. Well, my husband and I used to have these amazing movie nights. We would go to Kroger and we would roam the aisles, throwing our very favorite foods into the cart. So I will tell you some of ours. They included, but were not limited to, Skittles, Mike and Ike's, Reese's Pieces, sour cream and onion chips, Diet Coke, Doritos, and ice cream with all the toppings. We would run the aisle like Jesus was coming back tomorrow. And we really needed to eat everything that was in the store. We wanted to make sure. So we'd load up the cart and we'd head home ready to snuggle in for a long night's feast. Oh, and I almost forgot. We had to have a main dish, as if we didn't have one. And so we would order 2 big pizzas. Pepperoni for me, ham and green olive for the weird one, my husband. My coffee table looked like Thanksgiving on drugs. Okay? It was definitely a smorgasbord of junk food, and that was comfort and fun to me. A couple of years ago, around Christmas time, my husband sat me down for a talk. I know, it's coming. He felt like God was calling him to a 40-day fast. Now, if you're not familiar with a fast, it's going without food. Of course, I told him, I will support you completely. I will pray for you. And I will not eat in front of you. I would do all the good wifely things. But that wasn't all. My husband asked me if I would pray about joining him. Now, girls, I love my Jesus. But this was something entirely new. You see, there's this box. And I like to carry God around in this box with me. He stays really close to me in this box. I can put him in my pocket. Inside the box is my spiritual stuff. My Bible time, my prayer time, my Jesus time. But my food, my Diet Coke, my chocolate, it does not fit in this box. It has nothing to do with God. Food and God were entirely separate things. But to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't have to pray about it. I knew what I was supposed to do. And in order to do it, I was going to need a totally bigger box. Okay? So I'm not saying I went into this thing like a happy camper. I went into this thing kicking and screaming. I knew God was prompting me to join my husband in a spiritual fast from food. We were listening to God. We were fasting to hear direction for our church, for our family, and for ourselves. We wanted to hear what God was saying. So I could still carry God around with me in this box. He didn't fit in my pocket so well anymore, but I could put him in a slightly bigger box because I wanted him to help me with this fast, with giving up food and my Diet Coke. I would drink Diet Coke for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I would also drink Diet Coke for snack. I would drink flat Diet Coke. I would drink warm Diet Coke. I drank Diet Coke that someone else had been drinking. I took two liters of Diet Coke with me to school. I'm a school teacher, and I drank them before noon. I'm not lying to you. I needed that bigger box. We began that fast. My husband did a water-only fast, of course, after checking with his doctor, and I did a juice fast. And after several days in, I began to notice some things. Our lives revolved around food. When we were with people, we were eating food. When we weren't with people, we were eating food. When we were bored, we were eating food. And when we weren't hungry, we were eating food. And now, we would hang out with friends, and the food wasn't a crutch to help along the conversation or make everyone feel comfortable. It was just us and them. I realized that we depend on food for fellowship, for making events happen, for keep us busy, and it was an excuse. I needed a bigger box. God didn't just fit into that shoebox size. I needed him to be bigger. I needed him to help me with relationships and people, not just giving up food. Now, it was a little easier for me to imagine God being part of my relationships. That made sense, right? You know, the whole 2 or 3 are gathered thing, you know. But if I was going to allow God to be in charge of my relationships, I would definitely need this bigger box. So, this is awkward. So about halfway through the fast, I was taking a long bath. Trust me, when you're fasting, you have a lot of time for bathing. And I washed my jeans. Thank you, Heidi. I had more time for laundry. That's my church. And so I took a bath. Trust me when you're fasting. Again, I said you have time. And God started talking to me. He was telling me some things I needed to give up after the fast. Things that were harming my body and my health. He was giving me direction about my choices when it came to food. And so guess what I did? I argued with him because I really love bread. And I really love cheese. I think you should put cheese on everything. And I really love chocolate. And they were really important to me. And as clear as day, as if he were sitting right there on the edge of the bathtub with me, I heard him say, "Am I all you need or what?" It was then that I realized I hadn't really been listening to God. The food that I loved had been stopping up my ears for a super long time. Food had become my idol, and anything that we are unwilling to give up is something we are making more important than God. This didn't fit in my God box. My God just didn't swoop into the parts of my life that weren't spiritual and have a say about them. Sometimes in the past, I would slide the lid off the box a bit, beep, and let God have some freedom to talk to me about my job or my daughter or my relationship with my husband. But as soon as the conversation got uncomfortable, wham, that lid went back on. I wanted more blessings from God. I wanted them so badly, but I didn't want to do what he was asking me to do to receive those blessings. I was super uncomfortable. I really liked my little pocket box. I don't even know where he went. Oh, he's on the floor. Oh, I really liked him. He was blue and cute. I really liked my pocket box. I made do with the shoebox, and I even tolerated the medium-sized box. But it was in that moment in the bathtub that I realized God doesn't belong in a box. There is nothing in my life that isn't spiritual, because everything in my life belongs to God. My food, my money, my home, my job, my daughter, everything I own. How ridiculous it was for me to put God in a box. It was an illusion of control. In that moment, in the bathtub, I had to make a choice. Did I want God, or did I want the box I was trying to put him in? A wise man once said, "Many people desire the more of what Jesus has to offer, but are unwilling to surrender to the less it will require of themselves." When you truly follow Jesus, you can't stay the same. He will make you more like him. He will increase, and you will decrease. I have to admit that wise man was my husband. Either I was going to follow and obey, or not follow and obey. It was that simple. Another wise man once said, "Delayed obedience very quickly becomes disobedience." And that man was my father-in-law. You know what I've figured out about Jesus? He changes everything in our lives in which we have become comfortable experts. He forces us to say, Jesus, I want what you want, even if that means I will not be comfortable. So after the fast, our family cleaned out the pantry completely and made some tough decisions about what we would eat from then on. It has been our specific journey, and it's not for everyone. It was what God called us to do. It's been 2 years, and we have been eating clean ever since. Amen. This talk, though, I want you to know, girls, this talk is not about food. Although I would love to talk with any of you about the choices we've made and the incredible journey we've been on as a family. It's a journey of my husband and I both losing 70 pounds, both getting on the bicycle and riding 500 miles across the state of Iowa in 7 days this summer. This talk is not about food, but it is about obedience. Romans 5:19 says, "For just as through the disobedience of the one man the many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of one man the many will be made righteous." Philippians 2:8 says, "And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross." Jesus is our model for obedience. If I were Jesus, I would have definitely wanted to keep God in a box. Give up my life, become obedient to death on a cross. Girls, it is a really good thing I am not Jesus. I'm serious. That would take a really, really, really big box. In fact, that would entirely blow up the box. When we follow Jesus, he promises to change us into something we're not. Because following Jesus is change. He loves us too much to leave us the same. It is so easy to put God in a box or even move the boxes around to compartmentalize our obedience. There's me, there's my kids, my food, my hobbies, my work, my money. Sometimes I allow God to be in the money box for a while, but if that means I have to tithe or he asks me to give some of my money away, I quickly put him back in the pocket box. It's like we only let God be in charge of the things that keep us comfortable. But girls, if he's not Lord of all, he's not Lord at all. Anything I choose not to surrender can become an idol. Romans 12:1 says, "Offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God." I looked up the word sacrifice. I'm an English teacher. Although I did tell my drummer earlier, I don't English on the weekends, just so you know. Merriam-Webster defines it like this: the act of giving up something that you want to keep, especially in order to get or do something else or to help someone. To get the fullness of what Jesus wants to give us, we need to offer our bodies, our everything, as living sacrifices. Either we obey or we don't obey. There's no in between. David Platt, author of Radical, says this: "Do we really believe Jesus is worth abandoning everything for? Do you and I really believe that Jesus is so good, so satisfying, and so rewarding that we will leave all we have, all we own, and all we are in order to find our fullness in him? Do you and I believe him enough to obey him and to follow him wherever he leads?" Okay, now some of you are like, "Carrie, slow down that train." You're thinking to yourself, I love Jesus, but it's not like I have to sell everything and move to Africa or something. What if? I've heard that a lot. You know, when people are talking about obedience, everyone says, well, it's not like I have to sell everything and move to Africa or something. Wouldn't you rather be in the center of his will? Where do we get the gall to tell the creator of the universe that we will choose what and when we will obey him? Ultimately, being in the center of his will is where we will be the most fulfilled. So why are we so afraid to obey? One of my favorite authors, Jen Hatmaker, says that obedience isn't a lack of fear, it's just doing it scared. I heard a preacher say once in one of our Grace Point services, he said that obedience just takes 20 seconds of insane bravery. You just go, yes, and then, Jesus, you take care of the rest because I'm scared to death. We want all these blessings, but we don't want the risk that's attached to the blessings. Ephesians 5:1-2 says, be imitators of God, therefore, as dearly loved children, and live a life of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. We're supposed to imitate Jesus. He died for God. An author, Flannery O'Connor, said that the truth doesn't change according to our ability to stomach it. That's a big, big box. Or more like, that's a big lack of a box. In Luke 15:26, Jesus tells us, if anyone comes to me and doesn't hate his father and mother, his wife and children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. It's way outside the box, isn't it, girls? In comparison, hate everyone else but Jesus? Girls, we need a new picture of obedience. I thought for sure that my life was going to be awful without candy. I even liked those little wax bottles with the little juice in them. Those were awesome. And I even ate the wax part, you know, like you chew on it. Okay, am I the only one who did that? Okay, good. I got some friends, okay. I thought I wouldn't be able to survive without McDonald's French fries. Girls, they put an addictive substance in those French fries. I mean, every diet I've always been on, I always said I couldn't deny myself things. I mean, I just needed to give myself a break sometimes. No. We have one purpose, to live and carry out the will of our precious Father. And honestly, radical obedience breeds radical obedience. Once I realized the joy that came with my obedience, I knew and understood the blessings, and it made it so much easier the next time. If you trust, follow, and obey, you are going to crave obedience because you see what happens when you obey. But obedience takes practice. True obedience requires a relationship with our Father. We need to spend time listening to him. Girls, I couldn't listen because my ears were stopped up with food. You laugh. I mean, not literally. Maybe. Saving it for later. I was just kidding. That wasn't in my manuscript. I needed to surrender. I needed to give up. The more that I surrender, the more that I hear from God. When I give him my all, he gives me all. And I really appreciate, my husband said, and then Cheryl went ahead and did it. I get embarrassed. Thank you, Cheryl, for all your kind words about me. But my husband on Facebook was bragging about my blog and what happened. But I want to tell you the story. When we went through this fast, I felt like the Lord wanted me to write it down and create a blog. It was one of my first blog posts, was when I talked about what happened in this fast and what God did for us. And so I just started writing, and the Lord told me, write this. And so as a high school English teacher, I see so much that girls and guys derive their worth from how wanted they are. In high school, I think we do that. Chrissy testified it. She did it when she was out of high school, right? And so I wrote this blog post because I felt like the Lord told me to. And day one, I'm looking at this, and typically, you know, you get, like Cheryl said, about 40,000 in a month is what the hits would be for a Christian author who's writing regularly. And it just started multiplying. And I said, God, what are you trying to do? I'm broken. But when we obey, God goes way outside the box where you're going, I had no idea that would happen. That blog post would now be in 60 countries with now over 170,000 views as of this morning. That's crazy. Jesus is asking you right now to surrender. You know that thing? That thing you can't give up? Mine was food. I kicked and screamed because food was my comfort. Food was my crutch. Food made me comfortable, and I wanted to keep God in that little pocket box because then he didn't have to get in and mess with my stuff. Because what if he started telling me to give away my clothes or my money? What if he told me to move into a different house? Where's my Gretchen? Is she here today, girls? Not yet. We have a girlfriend in our small group. God told her, move into a different house. What if he told me to move across the country? What if he wanted me to let go of my kids? When Jesus called his disciples, he anticipated they'd have to give something up. You need to get away from the idea that God is concerned about your comfort. He's not. He loves you way too much to leave you the same. All of the significant relationships in my life, people who have mentored me, they loved me too much to leave me the same. Why wouldn't God do that for us? Jesus didn't call you to be safe. He called you to be dangerous. Today is your bathtub day. That's awkward. No, today. Yeah, all of us together now. Today is your bathtub moment. God wants to do something new and radical in you, but you're going to have to surrender first. You're going to have to give up. You're going to have to obey. When my daughter is being disciplined, and did any of you get a chance to read my Beef and Noodles obedience devotional? Okay, some of you did. If you didn't, get a chance to read that. But when she's being disciplined, I always tell her she has to obey with a happy heart. She doesn't always do that. The practice of obedience will help you to ooze the joy that Jesus gives when you're doing what you're supposed to do. You don't have to have the answers because I know what you're thinking. Well, what if? What will happen? What I don't know? Nope. You just need 20 seconds of insane bravery. God's dream for you is so much bigger than you could ever dream. I look back 2 years ago. I was sick. I was overweight. I was unhealthy. I believe God saved us from something. I really do. My husband and I could order 2 large pizzas and each eat our own large pizza in one sitting. We were in an unhealthy place. And I'm not saying, some of you, this is about food, some of you, but this whole sermon is not about food teaching. My husband's sermons I teach. But this whole thing isn't about food, it's about obedience. And you know right now what your thing is, and it might be food. I had tried everything to lose weight. But the thing, it wasn't about the losing the weight, it was about the obedience. It was about me giving my all to God and stopping putting him in this box that I thought I controlled. Girls, I hate to break it to you, but you've never been in control. Never. You think maybe, but never. I had tried everything, but the thing that finally changed it was radical and complete obedience to God. It wasn't trying or striving or working hard. It was complete and utter surrender.